So welcome to everybody. As Sina was saying, I'm coming up to the big 7-0, and this was something that I set myself to do, which was finish writing the book. It's been about 10 years, probably 20 in the making. And finally it's come together. The basis of the book is to take some very ancient wisdom which describes your psychology in terms of enrichments, but it's most aspects of your human characteristics, and to present them in a modern format, and to link all this with studies that have come out of Buddhism, bioscience, health, fitness, and, well, it's quite eclectic in its scope, but the idea is that you can use your home environment to prompt you if you want to make some changes in your life. And what I'd like to do to start with is ask you all to close your eyes, which is a bit of a cop-out, but there you go. And I'd like you to just imagine in your mind's eye that you are walking up to your front door. We all have front doors wherever we live, and have a good look at it. Look at its colour. There's a saying, is your front door delicious? And then walk through your front door into wherever you appear. It could be a room, it could be a hall. And just, what's the first thing that you notice? What are you seeing as you walk into your home? Just bear that thought in your mind. And now I want you to move in a room. Move into a room, any room of your choice, preferably one that you feel very comfortable in, but it doesn't have to be. And once you're inside this room, I want you to look around you, feel the temperature, have a look at the light, the dark, the sights, any sounds, any smells, should we call them aromas, textures, fabrics, colours, pictures, whatever you can see in this room. And now I want you just to take a second to feel. How do you feel in this room? Your feelings. And gradually, when you're ready, open your eyes and be back in Watkins' books. What I'm hoping is that you all got a kind of feeling. Did anybody not get a feeling of anything? Well, that's good. Because what I'm trying to do is establish a link between our feelings and our environment, our habitat, our space. That's what I'm trying to do. So hopefully you've just had a little experience which shows you that you can have that feeling. So what I'd like to do now is start the other end and say, let's look at all those parts of your life that you might like to make some changes to, and then see what we can do in your habitat to help you, remind you, prompt you. We call these things focus features, but that's jumping the gun a bit. So I'm going to sort of start by just running through the book, as that's why we're here. And I'm going to start by just reading a little quote that comes at the beginning of the prologue. I'm not allowed to mention the person who wrote it with me, but she is in the room and she knows who she is. So, your home is a unique reflection of yourself. From the way you arrange it and the decor you choose, to the many items you place in it. With fresh insight, you can easily adjust your surroundings to support your life goals, and enhance your well-being. Now, we can't all be happy-clappy the whole time, so the idea is to find equanimity. I'm not suggesting everybody goes home, does a few things, and suddenly their life is brilliant, but certainly it may be substantially improved and you'll learn more about yourself. So what I'd like to do now is to just tell you about the word affect, which I've had quite a lot of problems with a publisher I first sent this to, who said, shouldn't it be effect? And to the extent that I've had to write on the back cover why it is affect. Anybody who works in education and psychology will know that the definition of an affect, a noun, is a psychological factor influencing behaviour. And at the end of the day, we are talking about your behaviour if you want to improve it. It refers to the psychological impact of the stimuli in our surroundings, our habitat, and our senses and our thinking, from which flow our behaviour and our everyday experiences. And as you probably know, at the moment, everybody's selling experiences. Apparently we've all got enough stuff, and what we want is experiences. But actually, when we live in the now, all we ever have is the experience. So that's where we're going with this. So I'm going to invite you through the book to take a look around not just your physical surroundings, but your mental, emotional surroundings as well. And so the first part of the book, which is, it's in two parts, part 1 and part 2. The first part is actually all about your life now, so you can take a good look at it in the round. It starts obviously setting the scene. We've just talked about linking affect and feelings with your surroundings. I then go into the scope of something called the 9 enrichments. You've seen the front cover. I'm going to talk about that in detail later. But the 9 enrichments are borrowed from traditional Feng Shui, but I think anybody who's now in traditional Feng Shui would probably think, and I have adapted them. They have the 8 enrichments. I've used the Tai Chi in the middle to be for health and well-being, which is extremely important. Without our health, we have nothing, actually. We have struggle. So we all want to learn how to be healthier. So chapter 3 is about, it's called sensual clutter-free settings. And the sensual bit is the fact that when you go into your home, there are all sorts of energies in there, from light, heat, damp, noise, the atmosphere that you can touch, see, as we just did when we did the thing, when we did the exercise. And then the idea that clutter, although I think Einstein would have an argument with me about this, because apparently he said, what does that say about the brain if you have a clear table? But most of us do operate better if we are organised. Whatever we're going to do, it's nice to be in charge, in control. We all know what it's like to be out of control. So clutter is something people are very interested in, and I do go into this in the book, and I have run clutter busting workshops. And although it sounds quite light-hearted, when you get into the reasons why people hold on to stuff, it can get very deep. We're not going to go there tonight because I don't like people to go away wondering, but I have dealt with this in the book, and actually dealing with your clutter is very cathartic and can be great fun, and it can be nice for your friends when you give them things they've hankered after for years. So the chapter 3, sensual clutter-free settings. In chapter 4, I look at the power of colour and plants in your life. Now, most of us in the spaces we live in, whether you're transitory and renting and passing through, or you actually have a permanent home, there's colour on the walls, and quite a lot of us have plants. Or we see plants in our environment anyway. So it's very good to remember how important they are. And I go into this in quite a lot of detail, but also colour. I have an appendix at the back, and colour, I think, yes, the first appendix, the attributes. And I have studied colour and brought together colour from an esoteric point of view, from a scientific point of view, and sort of melded it all together. So what you see there is an Anna Cherry take on colour, which is quite fun. Then I'm asking you to consider your life in the round, and what that means is how you're functioning today in 21st century. The world, it's frenetic, there's so much pressure, social media, you've got to look good, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. Every time you open a book or a magazine, somebody's doing something amazing. We're all actually just people, and is anybody actually going to post on Facebook and say, well, apart from my daughter, I had a dreadful day today, help me. Generally, we're showing people what a great time we're having. We have to be so careful not to live our lives through other people's lives, or to look at models on catwalks and think we should be like that. No, we should be us, because the more we are able to be us, and it took me a long time to learn this, the better we can be to go out in the world and help other people and serve. So look at your life in the round and look at your fears, your doubts, your worries, and there is nothing to fear but fear itself, is a famous saying. Sometimes there are very real fears, by the way, I'm not making light of those. It carries on from there. Then there's a chapter on understanding how you make choices, and this is so important now. It's a big part of study by behavioural economists, can't even say it, psychologists and behavioural economists are now looking at the way we make choices, and I think we're all aware of how we are cajoled into choosing things that maybe aren't for the best. So we need to be a little bit cynical about what we're offered. I'm not going to go into it, but I'll mention the referendum, because we were given a choice of two, and maybe neither of those was exactly the right question. So we had to give an answer, we had to choose something, and everybody's now still quite confused about what's happening. Well, no wonder. So we look at choices, and then we look at health and your body, which is something everybody's interested in, and using your home to remind you that you're going to go for a walk, or you're going to do this, is where we'll come to when we get into the fifth enrichment. Mind matters is, and about luck, is about your attitude, your current attitude, your memory, and what's really real. So you can examine that. And then finally, chapter 9 of part 1 is about actions speak louder than words. We can all talk about it till the cows come home, but actually we want to do something. So at that point I talk about success, and I will just read a little extract about success afterwards. But mainly I want to talk about the 9 enrichments, because this is a tool that I've developed with some help, taken from ancient wisdom, and on the front of the book, but also here I've just done a little thing with the 9 enrichments, because each of these areas, wherever we choose to put them in our house, and I'm going to be very specific here, none of this is the same for everyone. Everybody's individual. Some self-help, self-improvement books, they say this affirmation, do this, do that. No, with this you have to discover what's right for you. So I can't give you your answers, you have to give your answers. So what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of audience participation, and I'm not going to choose people in the front. So if you could pass. Thank you. Could everybody hear that? All right, at the back. Yeah. So this is called the love area, the love and romance area, or you can be contentedly single. So can you pass that to somebody in the third row, please? This is the third enrichment. Thank you. That is actually the spiritual area. And finally, the 9th enrichment, which I'll read because I think it applies to absolutely everyone. Some of the other areas you may or may not want to work on, but this one is to do with our personal expression of ourselves. So it's your confidence, self-esteem, empowerment, expression, inspiration, motivation, recognition, significance, fame, shining your light, and experiencing life to the full. Okay, so the enrichments actually cover just about every aspect of our human psyche and lifestyle. Have I left anything out? Everybody's quiet? Good. Well, that's a relief. So as far as they go, each area is associated, each of these enrichments is associated with an area in your home. Traditionally, they were very set areas, but I'm actually suggesting that you can read about where it is traditionally, but actually choose somewhere that works for you in your home, because your home should be the home that nurtures you. I'll take an example from the lady read the 8th enrichment, which is about your spiritual quiet time sanctuary, and that is traditionally in the northeast, And in fact, in India, they have a system called Vastu, and they choose the northeast is always where they have the shrine room. But what I'm going to suggest is that you find somewhere in your home where you would like a bit of quiet time, and you have whatever it is that's going to help you remember to have this time, even if it's sitting up in bed in the morning reading a saying, a little bit of meditation, whatever it is. So this is finding something for you. The same with your romance area, it's traditionally the southwest. I could say the southwest of your house, the southwest of your favourite room, or I could say just where you feel you want to honour your relationship or you want to look for a new relationship. So I just want to keep a check on the time. We're doing okay? Yeah. So what I'd like to talk about now is, as you read about each of these enrichment experiences, I go into more depth about the particular enrichment, and then I've got an action area. And the action areas are quite important. You choose what you want to do, but the first action involves writing a letter to yourself. I give you some key questions to answer, 3 questions, because let's say you're not very good at learning new stuff, you'd like to be more curious. So I challenge you in the action A to write yourself a letter about what you would like to do, what would you like to change, so that you are more acquisitive of knowledge, or possibly you aren't aware of the value of teachers in your life. You might want to value them more. That would be the 3rd enrichment, and I suggest where you should put your letter and how long you should leave it, and then read it again or revisit it. The 2nd action, which is the one most people are interested in because it is the main habitat affect action, is to have focus features, physical reminders, placing on purpose within whatever area it is you've chosen to honour that enrichment. And I'll take another enrichment now. For example, the 6th enrichment is about leisure time, friends, doing things, travel, adventure, and being a good friend, having good friends. And there are certain things that you can do in this area to remind you. A very simple thing is, if you wanted to travel more frequently, you could place a globe there or a map of the world. You could read travel books, you could have a bookcase. If you want to honour your friends, you can have a little photo area of, I have one, it's me and my friends. Now actually it's me with this friend, me with that friend, and all the photos are all together. But actually, because of the way my house is configured, it's not actually in the northwest, which is traditionally the 6th enrichment, but I'm quite happy with it where it is because it works for me. And that's what I'm trying to say. There are no hard and fast rules. It's just nice to think that you might want to do something like that. So I go into great detail about focus features, and this is the key part of, you will remind yourself, if you've decided to make some changes in any of those areas of your life, you are actually physically doing something in your home that is there to remind you, and you can change those reminders. Action C is an exercise related to those particular attributes of yourself, and action D is just a call to do something different, because we all know that saying, if you keep on doing what you've always done, you'll keep on getting what you've always got. And it's very easy, it's very comfortable, even if you're not happy with it, to keep on doing the same old thing. So what I'd like to do is actually just read you a quick little paragraph about success, because if you are choosing to make some changes, then presumably the end result is you have success. But what is success? And I'm going to summarize it as follows. Success is loving others, allowing myself to be loved, using my natural kindness and compassion well, helping to bring out the best in people, earning the respect of other people by example. Success is being true to myself and my chosen values, having the courage to rise above fear of failure, learning a better way from my mistakes, seizing opportunities for healthy new experiences, giving appropriately and unconditionally of my time and of my surplus funds, knowing when enough is enough. Success is finding time to play, to have fun, to smile and laugh, spending time with children and the elderly, appreciating beauty and the simple things of life. And finally, when it is time for me to leave this world, knowing that someone somewhere has benefited from something I've contributed, however small or seemingly insignificant. So the main idea here is to enrich your own life so that you can then go out and connect with other people and enrich their lives too. It's walk the talk, set the example. And by doing physical things in your home, you can genuinely support whatever it is you've decided to change. And if you don't need to change anything, well, that's wonderful. but I've yet to meet that person. Thank you very much. So we're going to just get a bit personal with me for a moment. How have the changes that I've made in my life, or the philosophy which I have in the Habitat Effect, helped? Actually, they've helped a massive amount, but it took a long, long time to get there. We all have a bumpy path. I wish I got there sooner, and I think by being very mindful, this is where mindfulness, I know it's the buzzword, and I'm not talking about spending a fortune going on mindfulness courses, but just actually stopping to think what's really going on, and thinking in the way that the Buddha taught. And I am not a practicing Buddhist, but I do love the philosophy, which is very much inherent in this, which is that we all suffer, and that we can all look and see the cause of the suffering, and then, if possible, we can do something about it. And that's basically quite important. And every time something goes really wrong, we must allow ourselves time for sadness, for grief, but we can also eventually look for a silver lining. And silver linings are a great part of what I've developed. Every time we hit a buffer, I guarantee a silver lining will come sometime, somewhere. So that's something. But making choices for change is a personal thing that you have to want to do. And I really did want to do it. I've had a very, very full life, but like everybody else, I've made a few mistakes along the way, and I think this philosophy has helped me to look at that, find the silver lining, and improve, I hope, in ways that are helpful to other people. Thank you for asking. We're going to talk for a minute an interesting question about clutter, and whether you have to get to grips with your clutter before you can read the book, or does the book help you in that way? The book says quite a bit about clutter, because I have run clutter workshops, but if you were to come to my home, and I have to walk the talk these days, I have a view that one person's clutter might not be actually clutter, it might be there on purpose. So I'm going to talk about things in your house that are there on purpose, things that nurture you and things that hinder you. So it is good to be organised, there's no doubt about that. And I have something in here called the ABC of managing clutter, and then I have 5 very practical ways of doing it. And no, you don't have to get rid of everything at all. There are just some practical guidelines about what you can do, and one of them is, first of all, particularly the areas psychologically that you want to make some changes, go into that area. So if somebody said, my love life is just, not working out. I have been into people's homes where they've got spiky plants and photographs that were taken when they were with an ex that they can't stand, but they happen to look good in that photo. It's one of them, it was probably taken by the ex. So they've left it there because people like to have photos of themselves when they look nice. What we need to do is understand what your clutter's about. I do a lot of sewing and projects like that, so I have to keep loads of wood, and I have to. I love making things, but I have developed storage systems. It's what's difficult is when you haven't got good storage. So if you're the kind of person who likes things to be around, which You know, you don't want your house to be a hotel room. You want it to be your house that says, my best advice is that everything in your house, taken from William Morris, who said everything should be useful and attractive or attractive. I say anything, just ask, does it make my heart sing? And if you want to declutter a room, you can take everything out within reason and then put it all back gradually and choose what you put back in, you know, and be sure why it's there. And if you haven't got a good reason, or if in your heart of hearts you know it's actually hindering you, then you can recycle it, give it away, sell it, whatever you want to do with it. Very few things actually need to go in a bin, but somebody else might be very happy with that beautiful egg coddler that Great Auntie May gave you in 1985. But why have you got it still? It's still good to keep things from your ancestors, obviously, your elderly relatives and things like that. So I hope that answers your question a bit. There's quite a lot about that. Practical. I'm trying to make it practical. I already had a little talk with Sina actually about that. The habitat effect is clearly about your relationship with your environment. And if you have absolutely no control of your environment, the best thing I can say is to work out how you can become involved in homeless shelters, in places like that, and gradually volunteer and get involved. I can't do the psychology or the psychiatry of people who have medical needs and have ended up homeless. This is not really the book for them. However, if you're reading this book and you want to help people like that, then there will be a way, you will find a way to help them. There's a wonderful book years ago called How to Be Good by Nick, Hornby. How to Be Good. I read it years ago and it really challenged me. It's funny, it's just come into my head now. And the narrator is a female GP, and she is one of these people that goes around doing good everywhere. And then one day her husband decides to take it to the next level and befriends a homeless person and brings him into the house. And they start giving the children's computers to him, and it's fascinating because she is so challenged, this good person, by this homeless person. And I think probably as a society we're all challenged because we are all interdependent. Nobody lives on an island, certainly not as far as this goes. And there's quite a lot about that in the book. So thank you for the question. I'm afraid I can't answer it directly, but I can just say we can all have a conscience. I do.
Smart meters.
Smart meters. Oh, that's. You mean taking our data?
Microwave radiation.
Yes.
Which is pulse.
Yes.
Pulse wave 24 hours a day.
Yes, I do mention so. Yes. So the question concerns all the electromagnetic energy, radiation energy, microwaves that are circulating around our spaces, our living spaces. I touch on this and I do talk about quantum physics. It's not for me to say if it's actually dangerous or not, but as I've got an audience here, I will say that I once went to Feng Shui an office in the second tier story in the Cardiff International Arena, and there are so many cables and electromagnetic energy and radiation in that building that my compass would not settle. That's number one. Number two, for ladies here who wear underwired bras, and I'm not sure whether I put this in the book, but I do tell everyone, if you're sitting in front of a computer all day, do not wear an underwired bra, because there is a theory amongst some academics, researchers, people who discovered tamoxifen actually, who I knew, where they said they can't pinpoint it, but there could be some interference and you might increase your chances of breast cancer. So only wear the underwire bra when you're going out in the evening, but don't sit in front of in your highly charged environment. I think there's quite a lot to do with the environment in that sort of situation where we're aware of all these things. But I'd say that actually a lot of that, there's a lot of psychological stress that goes on purely because of all these smartphones and meters and everything anyway, so we have a double whammy there. Thank you for the question. I mentioned the earphones in here, but as a member of the human race, I do get very concerned that everybody seems to need constant stimulation right in their head, and they're walking around a little bit like zombies. And particularly if you're walking in nature, I do think that it would be nice if you could just smell the roses.
Do you think they have a natural transmitted
Oh, I think
effect? Do you think there's something happening there as well?
well, there has been this whole debate about actually smartphones in your pocket if you're a guy. Don't put them there. Radiation waves. I can't tell you the scientific research into that, but personally, I try not to do stuff like that. I mean, you are definitely affecting your hearing, but whether or not you're actually putting waves, you must be doing something into your brain. Whether it's dangerous or not is another issue. But I think common sense around everything. I go into healthy eating in this, common sense around what's good to put in your mouth. Don't treat yourself like a dustbin. If you stick things in your ears, you're sticking things in your ears, you know. Think it through. The same with just about everything. We often just do things because everybody else is doing them. Question. As the Dalai Lama says, question everything. Area is the 9th enrichment, which is the one I read out before. And I'll just read you a few ideas of what you can do to fire yourself up, increase your self-confidence. And these are focus features that you could do in wherever you choose to have your fire area. So this is traditionally the south. So make sure the south is always well illuminated. If there's no natural light available, i.e. no windows or glass doors because you live in a joined property, ensure artificial lights are bright and attractive. The south is a good place to honour your self-expression by lighting a scented candle. Always be fire safety conscious with candles, and remember that they deplete oxygen in a room, so burn sparingly. There's been a massive increase in house fires caused by people burning candles. It's not that zen to do it. The same with incense. It has been shown recently that if you burn incense in a small room without ventilation, it might be carcinogenic, so do be careful. But burning incense in an open space, or just actually with an essential oil smelling frankincense, sandalwood or citronella, is good to fire yourself up. If your fireplace happens to be in the south, then fire is already a dominant feature, but if it isn't, symbolically you can think appropriate warmth and functional light rather than dazzling inferno, because then you get ash-laden burnout and it could signify you're doing too much and you need to slow down. So not too much, but just think about what you've got to signify getting yourself into action mode. And you can symbolise the warmth of the sun by using splashes of red and orange to spur yourself into action. You can paint a wall, display a picture of a sunny picture, a red fruit picture. You can accessorise in red depending on the room's functions. You can be inspired by a vase of red flowers, plants that suggest active blooming. The biggest one that I think is to hang a crystal in the south and just watch the wonder of how the crystal diffracts the white light into all the colours of the rainbow. My 4-year-old grandson is fascinated by my crystal. It beams the rainbow all around the stairs and it moves. He'll move it and it's beautiful. And close your eyes and actually get the beam onto your middle eye. It's absolutely wonderful. And you can metaphorically think how to use this illuminating energy on your inner eye to further your personal development and your capability to inspire others. Thank you very much. Thank you all so much for